You finally see it now, don't you? Welcome, perfect stranger. Welcome, quiet calculator. Welcome to the one who smiled in their face while memorizing every word they said behind your back. You know exactly what I mean. That disguise, that flawless, carefully crafted, gentle little disguise you've been carrying for so long. The calm tone, the understanding gaze, the unthreatening energy. The one who never made waves, the one who said sorry without being asked. The one who carried the weight, swallowed the poison, and kept smiling through the chaos. They believed you were fragile. They believed you were easy to control. They believed you were harmless. But something changed lately, didn't it? Something broke open. Maybe you stopped reacting the way they predicted. Maybe you stopped showing up to wars you didn't declare. Maybe you just disappeared into silence, deep silence. And that quietness, that powerful, unnerving quietness, that's when they first tasted it. Panic. Because the gentle act, that was never fragility. That was strategy. You weren't hiding. You were gathering intelligence. You weren't shattered. You were watching every deception, every game, every stab in the back with the focus of someone documenting evidence on something already dead. And now they're beginning to notice it. The way you carry yourself differently, the way your expression doesn't soften anymore when they expect comfort. The way you don't justify yourself or apologize for breathing. They're beginning to understand that the person they thought they decoded was never actually present at all. That version of you, the safe one, the understanding one, the one who overlooked everything, that was a role you inhabited, and you inhabited it so convincingly they forgot it was temporary. But the show ended now. The stage went dark without announcement. The house lights rose, and what they see standing in that empty space isn't the wounded soul they recall. It's something else entirely, something that doesn't flinch under pressure, doesn't crack when challenged, doesn't plead when deserted. Let's examine that disguise for a moment. Let's examine why you constructed it and what it demanded from you. Because everyone wants to discuss masks like they're purely destructive, like concealing your truth is some criminal offense. But nobody discusses why you had to conceal anything to begin with. Nobody questions what happens to someone when authenticity becomes punishment, when truth becomes a target, when vulnerability makes you exploitable. They conditioned you to disappear, didn't they? They conditioned you to feel guilty for existing. They conditioned you to question your gut and erase your voice because every time you expressed your reality, they made you pay for it. So you evolved. You discovered how to smile while your insides twisted. You discovered how to agree when you wanted to explode. You discovered how to perform innocence because being genuine was too risky. And you know what's sick about that? They rewarded you for it. They labeled you reasonable, cooperative, easygoing, uncomplicated. They adored the version of you that processed their mess without resistance. They adored the version of you that simplified their existence while complicating yours. And you allowed them to believe it because somewhere underneath, you grasped something most humans never do. You grasped that the most lethal person present is the one everyone underestimates. You wore that gentle mask like protection, not from weakness, but from wisdom. You knew that humans expose themselves when they consider you powerless. They lower their defenses, they reveal their methods. They demonstrate exactly who they are when they assume you're not dangerous. And the entire time, while they assumed you were innocent, while they assumed you were simple, while they laughed at your compassion when you couldn't hear, you were studying. Studying their rhythms, their fractures, their insecurities, the precise vulnerable spots that would destroy them if you ever chose to apply pressure. But here's where it becomes fascinating. You never intended to weaponize that knowledge, did you? You weren't designing revenge or tallying debts for some eventual reckoning. You were just enduring, just attempting to survive without being annihilated by humans who mistook your gentleness for ignorance. You authentically wanted harmony. You authentically attempted to rise above. You authentically believed that if you remained kind long enough, they'd finally recognize your value. And that right there, that's what makes this whole thing so devastatingly perfect. Because you didn't remove the mask because you wanted to damage them. You removed it because you finally stopped worrying whether they got damaged or not. The instant you recognized their perception of you was never rooted in reality anyway. The instant you comprehended that no level of goodness would ever satisfy people dedicated to distorting you, that's when the gentle act expired. Not through anger, not through spectacle, just through a silent choice to stop performing for spectators who never earned the production. Now they're starting to recognize it, fragment by fragment, exchange by exchange. Initially, they couldn't quite identify what transformed. You appear the same, you speak the same, but something core shifted, and it's creating profound unease. Maybe it began when they attempted to manipulate you and you didn't respond. Maybe it was when they anticipated justification and you provided silence. Maybe it was how you stopped seeking their validation, stopped fighting for their focus, stopped caring whether they remained or exited your world. They keep probing you, don't they? Launching small attacks your direction, dropping words calculated to activate the previous you, the one who would scramble to explain themselves or demonstrate their value. But that human doesn't exist anymore. That human vanished the instant you recognized they were never going to perceive you accurately anyway. So when they push now, they discover emptiness. No response, no feeling, no vulnerability. Just a barrier of detachment so absolute it horrifies them. Because humans are wired for patterns, and you just shattered their pattern. They had you classified, organized under manageable, simple to exploit, perpetually accessible for emotional support. They knew precisely which triggers to activate to make you question yourself, precisely which phrases would make you retreat. But suddenly the triggers malfunction. Suddenly you're observing them with this disturbing composure, this strange stillness that makes them reconsider everything they assumed about you. They start questioning others. Have you noticed something altered about them? They seem harsh now. They seem removed. It's like they don't care anymore, and they're correct. You don't. Not in the manner they require, not in the manner that makes you manageable. You've shifted into a dimension they can't access anymore. A plane of awareness where their tactics appear juvenile and their control attempts feel draining rather than dangerous. And this is where the panic really intensifies for them, because they're recognizing something horrifying. They're recognizing that the person they overlooked might have been the most dangerous person they ever met. Not dangerous in a violent sense, dangerous in a strategic sense. Dangerous because you understand things about them they assumed were secret. Dangerous because you observed their ugliest moments and never deployed that information against them, even when you could have obliterated them with facts. They assumed your silence meant you moved on. But you didn't move on from anything. You archived it. Every betrayal, every deception, every instance they revealed exactly who they were when they thought you weren't recording. You remember everything with crystal precision. And now that you're no longer performing innocence, now that you're no longer processing their poison with a smile, they're petrified of what happens if you choose to talk, if you choose to reveal the evidence you've been silently gathering, if you choose to stop shielding their image at the expense of your own sanity. Let's discuss what you actually transformed into. Because this isn't simply about discarding a mask. This is about uncovering what existed beneath the performance from the beginning. While they perceived a victim, you were becoming a tactician. While they perceived fragility, you were constructing strength they couldn't fathom. While they assumed you were clueless, you were cultivating a depth of awareness that would ultimately make you unreachable. You mastered reading humans, truly reading them. Not the superficial presentation they broadcast to everyone, but the hidden self they attempt to bury. You mastered detecting manipulation before it struck. You mastered recognizing authentic connection versus exploitative arrangements. You mastered distinguishing between someone who values you and someone who values what you provide them. And most critically, you mastered that your worth isn't established by people who were never equipped to assess you to begin with. The metamorphosis wasn't sudden. There was no detonation, no public confrontation, no dramatic instance where you declared your transformation. It occurred in the silent instances. In the evening, you chose to stop answering communications that depleted your spirit. In the dawn, you awakened and realized you didn't miss humans who diminished you. In the discussion where someone attempted to deceive you, and instead of doubting yourself, you simply departed without finishing. You stopped clarifying. You stopped justifying. You stopped attempting to make humans comprehend your viewpoint because you finally understood that some humans will perpetually select their fiction over your reality. And instead of creating bitterness, that awareness created liberation. Liberation from the exhausting pattern of validating yourself to humans who were never going to perceive you honestly. Liberation from the performance of being acceptable to humans who didn't value authenticity anyway. Liberation from the burden of caring what becomes of humans who never cared what became of you. And here's what they're too oblivious to recognize yet. You didn't become harder. You became sharper. You didn't become crueler. You became more truthful. You became discriminating. The boundaries you constructed aren't barriers intended to exclude everyone. They're screens engineered to exclude the destructive people and admit the worthwhile ones. You're not resentful about history. You're informed by it. You don't despise the humans who wounded you. You just comprehend them now. Comprehend that damaged humans damage humans, that their cruelty toward you was always about their internal destruction, never about your value. And that comprehension doesn't make you absolve them or welcome them back into your existence. It just means you stopped internalizing their chaos personally. You stopped interpreting their failure to value you correctly as evidence of your worth. You stopped diminishing yourself to inflate their egos. You stopped performing small so they could feel significant. Something remarkable happens when you stop performing for humans who never valued the performance. The control balance shifts so drastically, it's like observing a chess match where one competitor suddenly discloses they've been 20 moves ahead the whole time. They assumed you required them. They assumed you were incomplete without their approval, unfinished without their focus, meaningless without their acceptance. And perhaps for a period you believed that too. Perhaps for a period you calculated your value by their presence in your existence. But then something activated. Perhaps it was the 1,000th time they disappointed you. Perhaps it was observing them offering someone else the attention you requested. Perhaps it was just fatigue finally exceeding optimism. Whatever the trigger, something within you finally declared enough. And unlike all the previous times you attempted to convince yourself you were finished, this time it was authentic. This time your instincts believed it before your thoughts confirmed it. This time you didn't require closure or explanations or one last discussion. You just required separation. And in that separation, that magnificent, expansive, liberating separation, you uncovered something they never wanted you to discover. You were never the deficiency they convinced you that you were. You were the support system maintaining their whole fragile construction together. You were the emotional investment keeping their disorder functional. You were the reflection making them appear superior than they actually were. You were the spectators making their performance feel meaningful. And the second you abandoned those functions, the second you extracted your energy from their environment, everything they constructed started disintegrating. Not because you assaulted it, not because you revealed them, but simply because they were never as powerful as they seemed when they had you sustaining them. Now they're panicking. Now they're contacting you with peculiar communications at random times. Now they're suddenly curious about your existence after weeks of absence. Now they want to discover who you're connecting with, what you're pursuing, whether you've progressed. And it's not because they miss you. It's because they're terrified of what you evolved into without them. Because here's the element they can't process. You're not merely surviving without them. You're flourishing. The version of you they knew, the one who questioned themselves perpetually, the one who apologized for existing, the one who compressed themselves to fit into their restricted little reality, that version is deceased. And what surfaced in its position terrifies them. You move differently now, with the type of assurance that emerges from recognizing the judgments that used to devastate you don't even contact you anymore. You speak differently now, no longer over-explaining or defending your decisions to humans who weren't going to honor them anyway. You exist differently now, occupying space without apology, establishing boundaries without remorse, selecting yourself without performing modesty, to make others comfortable with your transformation. They wanted you to remain trapped. They required you to remain damaged because your recovery challenged their rationalizations. Your expansion revealed their stagnation. Your transformation made their safety zone appear like the prison it always was. Now we're approaching the phase they didn't anticipate. The phase where their understanding of you finally aligns with the truth of who you've evolved into. And it's striking them in surges of confusion because nothing about you corresponds to their previous framework anymore. They attempt to explain it to other humans. They attempt to portray you as unstable, erratic, transformed in some harmful way. But here's what's amusing about that. The more they discuss, the more transparent it becomes that they're describing their own disturbance, not any genuine defect in you. They claim you're different, as if it's a crime, as if evolution is somehow a violation of who you used to be. They claim you're cold, but what they intend is you stopped being warm to humans who brought frost into your existence. They claim you're distant, but what they intend is you stopped pursuing humans who were fleeing from genuine connection. They claim you've changed, but what they actually intend is you stopped modifying yourself to accommodate their incapacity to meet you where you genuinely are. And the magnificent thing, the absolutely poetic thing about this entire situation is that you're not executing any of this to wound them. You're not plotting your next action to make them regret abandoning you. You're not broadcasting mysterious messages hoping they'll realize what they possessed. You're not performing your recovery to create envy. You're just experiencing your genuine existence now, the one you delayed for years while you waited for them to improve. You're exploring interests you neglected because they made you feel selfish for having enthusiasm. You're reconnecting with dimensions of yourself you discarded to accommodate their disorder. You're constructing an existence that doesn't demand their involvement or validation, and that indifference, that authentic disinterest in whether they're observing or not, that's what's genuinely destroying them, because they desired a response. They desired confirmation that they still mattered, that they still possessed some influence on your emotional condition. But you're not offering them that gratification. You're not offering them anything whatsoever. Not your effort, not your consideration, not even your rage. You simply eliminated them from your ecosystem and continued constructing. They're starting to discover things about you now. Shared contacts mentioning how healthy you appear, how content you seem, how transformed your presence feels. And each fragment of information arrives like a small death because it compels them to face what they forfeited, not the version of you they knew. That version was never genuinely you anyway. They're forfeiting the opportunity of knowing the authentic you, the one who emerged after you stopped concealing, the one who's wittier, more inventive, more formidable than they ever witnessed because you never felt secure enough to be that human around them. They're recognizing they invested years with someone operating at half capacity because full power would have jeopardized their fragile dominance. And now someone else experiences that complete magnitude. Or perhaps no one does. Perhaps you're just appreciating your own presence for the first time in years, and that's even more threatening to them. The concept that you don't require anyone the way you once required them. The concept that you discovered wholeness in yourself rather than in someone else's approval.